You know, I didn't want to do this, but you leave me no choice. To Mr. Mouse Rebel News, it's time for some tough love. I've seen your videos. I can't believe all the things that come out of your mouth. Look here, don't come on YouTube and always talk how angry you are about how the system has failed you. Let me ask you something. Do your parents know you're doing this? Even if they do, I'm surprised that they haven't talked to you about it. I notice by your videos talking to your critics about how they don't know anything. The truth is that it's you that doesn't know anything. You don't know the real world. You don't know how the world actually works. All you do is say stuff that other people like you have said and repeated over and over again. It's funny that the Cold War is over and yet this stuff is still being preached. You don't know anything. Either you don't know or you used to know. Also, it's you that doesn't live in the real world. You act in this little world, in this little communist utopia. You want this to be some kind of communist utopia. You think that you want life to be like what Karl Marx said in his books. You read Marx, but do you understand Marx? Marxian theory has been disproved and refuted so many times that it's now a waste of time arguing against it because it's been disproven so many times. Real life isn't communism. Life isn't what Marx and all these other communist leaders and writers said. Real life is not a worker's paradise where everybody is equal, everybody is happy, and there are children in their pioneer outfits parading in the streets holding pictures of Marx, Lenin, Stalin, Mao, or whatever communist leaders they belong to. It's also not about the People's Army marching in the streets and parading their missiles, tanks, and other types of weapons. Like I said it again, you need to know the real world. If you know the real world, then you know that communism doesn't work, and it will never work. If you know the real world, then you know that you have to work for everything. You say that you saw the end of the Cold War, then you must probably know that it collapsed, and your parents must have told you about why it fell. Why did you become a communist in the first place? I bet somebody gave you a flyer about communism, and then right there from the get-go, you just continued on the path of destruction. Wait a minute. You became a communist because your life sucked and how the real world treated you very unfairly? Something is definitely wrong with you. Oh, seriously, saying stuff like, oh, I became a communist because my life sucked so badly. That would be like saying, a guy saying, I can't be with any girl, so I'm going to be gay. Do you actually hear yourself talk? You act as if your life is so terrible or was so terrible. You know, life sucks for millions of people, but do you see them being communist because of it? No. You need to suck it up. Either go hard or go home. You also seem to have this mentality, this if I can't have it, no one can mentality. Speaking of mentality, you admire Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong, one of the most sadistic, disgusting world leaders in the 20th century. A man who is responsible for more deaths than Stalin and Hitler combined. This guy is your role model. This man, and I use the term man very loosely, should never be admired. Not even Chinese Americans admire this man. I have no respect for this sick human being like him. I have more respect for the Chinese triads, for fuck's sakes. The triads are saints compared to Mao. I have more respect for Chiang Kai-shek. In fact, Kai-shek has done more to help more people than to hurt them, and also did great things after he was exiled. But that's for another video. Also, don't even say, well, Chiang killed people too. Two wrongs don't make a right, man. You talk a lot of shit about it, how it would be better if everybody got everything for free, and how government should regulate everything, and how everybody should have the rights to many types of necessities. There's no such thing as free. Something is free because someone else is paying for it. Real life isn't what Mao was saying. That's nothing but propaganda that they put in your head. Propaganda that can and will never happen. You know that's not real, but it doesn't get to the surface. You think that's how life will be, but you just don't get it. The Communist Manifesto isn't real. That's not real life. You talk about your critics about how they are just in high school and that they don't know anything. You're right about that. But I doubt that they will turn communist because their lives will suck or they're going to lead into a life that has its ups and downs. Life has its ups and downs. It will always be like that. Those critics aren't on your level like you said. They are above your level. Don't you ever say that their lives are going to be terrible because of your life sucked. Maybe they won't be so rich and successful, but they will have a great life and they will be proud of it. Also, the so-called American dream does exist. It has always existed. The thing is that you have to go out into the world and get it for yourself. It's not going to come to your house and knock the door waiting for you to get it. My parents came to this country without any money, spoke no English whatsoever, and without the slightest idea about anything else. Many years later, they now live in a two-story house in a rich gated community in the suburbs. There's so many rags to rich stories out there from people that were in terrible conditions than you. Also, don't ever say stupid things on how nationalism leads to fascism, and also stuff like how people shouldn't be allowed to own stuff and consumerism is terrible and blah blah blah. Don't ever ruin someone else's life because your life was terrible. You're a 30-year-old man. When are you going to learn how to grow up? I think it's time. Either you grow up or life is just going to pass you by.